My name is Pete Duran. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at NetSertive, and very glad to have Tomas Rodriguez on with us for part 2 of our CTV discussion. He was so popular the first time around. We had write-ins and proxy votes and all sorts of things saying we need more Tomas.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad it was useful.
Well, you're a popular guy, especially around the holidays. So let's jump in and tee up some questions. We can take live questions. So if you want to use the application and type in a question, our moderator will submit those to us and we can get those in front of Thomas. But we gathered some feedback based on the last webinar and have teed up some questions for Tomas. Some he's prepared for, some we are saving for surprises.
Oh boy.
So, absolutely. So let's do a little background quickly. So those of us who weren't on the previous one kind of know what we're doing. So NetSertive is a full service digital marketing company with a pretty solid technology platform. I think that's our biggest differentiator. And we do the full gamut: PPC displays, social video, e-com, connected TV, landing pages across all the major channels and networks. And then we got a whole bunch of people smarter than me that work alongside you to make sure those campaigns are effective. And our job is to make sure you get the best return on your investment possible. And sometimes that means a pretty complex mix of media and channels. And I think that's what we're here to do. So one of the areas we see the biggest growth is connected TV. So we are a strong trade desk partner. We've actually written some code together to do some things that are pretty unique. We'll touch on in this webinar. And Tomas is our guest of honor. So he's going to give you a little background on the trade desk.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. So the Trade Desk is a buy-side technology platform for advertisers. You know us as a DSP, but I think through partnerships with NetSertive, we kind of showed that we're a little bit more than that. Like, we can be an enabler of really specific and highly targeted technologies. But at our core, we help advertisers select the right impressions that are going to drive bottom line results for their advertising campaigns. We do that with a DSP and a decision-making tool there. We do that with a data management platform where advertisers can use the best of their own data and marketplace data. With a publisher management platform where we make available some of the best inventory, especially connected TV inventory, best inventory in the market. And there's a lot of cool things you can do when you combine large scale, good audience data, and high decision making. You can spin up a good artificial intelligence platform. You can do some great planning and forecasting. And then you can partner with great partners like NetSertive to enable them to build really cool businesses in conjunction with our APIs. So happy to be here today. Thanks so much, Pete.
Thanks, Tomas. And now that we're past the motherhood and apple pie portion of the presentation, we'll jump into some of the meat. So
cool.
Let's tee up what connected TV means at NetSertive. And I think it's important, and we touched on some of the technical integration we've done with the Trade Desk that's unique. So we have the ability to kind of tie your full digital funnel into your CTV campaign structure, which is really unique. And what I mean by that is if somebody's browsing for a boat on their phone and they come and sit down in front of their CTV channels, we can push the ad of the boat based on inventory right to them in front of that, which is a really unique, powerful, and strong consumer experience, right? They're seeing your brand, your products, but in a very meaningful way, customized to their search and in basically all the habits and the products that they're interested in. So these are some of the networks and channels we work with. And of course, we do this with the Trade Desk because they've been a really collaborative partner, and it's the fastest growing advertising segment right now. There's no Tomas. It's exploding.
That's right. It really is exploding. That's right. It's as fast as consumers are moving from linear to digital. That's almost as fast as where the ad budgets are going.
Yeah. And I've taken some pride watching. I'm a YouTube TV person, and I've actually seen some of our clients' ads come across, which is exciting.
Very cool.
See those localized. And it always frustrates me when I see, please wait here because we haven't sold this inventory yet.
Yeah, you're telling me that's my job. I'm supposed to get that ad spot and make it available programmatically. And it tells me I got a lot of work to do.
All the people listening to the call are going to solve this problem for us. So
That's right.
That tees up our first question, Tomas. Why CTV and why now? What's changed? And then maybe the sub question I'll get to next is what's that versus OTT?
Yeah, sure. So in a self-serving way, if you asked me this 2 years ago, I still would tell you it's the right time for CTV.
Sure.
But it's especially the right time right now because of COVID. Our CEO Jeff, he really likes to say, or what he said his last panel on Variety was he thinks that we did 5 years of cord cutting in a single year because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Essentially, what you're doing is you have TV viewers feeling money and pressure on their wallet. Maybe means they get rid of cable in lieu of some cheaper options, some a la carte options that they can put together themselves on streaming. And what it makes challenging is, maybe if you're a local market advertiser and you should be able to reach all 100% of the households in your area with a single ad, that makes it challenging if they're moving to linear or moving off linear and moving into digital. But that challenge can also be an opportunity, because when you have folks move from a coaxial cable or a linear cable box and they move to a internet device, very much like our phone or laptop, but moving to an internet device like their new Samsung TV or their Roku, that means we can get better targeting. That means that if we're taking the boat example, if we have land lovers, maybe we don't serve them the boat ad, right? You can be a lot more targeted. It's new. These challenges have turned into new possibilities, and like most things, the early adopters are going to be the ones who develop the best practices and the ones who win, in the end. So it's not just a why CTV, why now. It's hurry up. It's get there. Be an early adopter.
And when people think of CTV, they also hear the term frequently tossed around OTT. What's the difference between the two of them?
Yeah, we're as fast as the industry's changing, so are the definitions and the verbiage. OTT was the first thing to really be stated, and basically if you think of it from a physical standpoint, think about putting that Apple TV on top of your cable box. And so that's what over the top meant, meaning going up physically above your cable box to the Apple TV or the Roku hockey puck, and watching the same content via those devices than you could have via your cable box. So that's what over the top meant. Now, OTT as an acronym, over the top, has turned into a catch-all phrase for whenever a TV viewer is watching TV content not through their cable box. So that means if I'm catching up on Saturday Night Live on a Sunday and I'm using my laptop, that's still a full episode, but it's an internet connected device outside of the cable box. So that qualifies as OTT. So OTT is the large umbrella term. CTV is maybe makes 70% of the marketplace under that umbrella. And it's the big screen, so that's why it gets all the love.
It does. And I think that's where we concentrate most as a company at NetSertive as well. And, you hit on a couple of really key points, right? And the fact that cord cutters have now surpassed cable TV, and, that happened so accelerated in 2020.
That's right.
And the attribution capabilities from a CTV perspective far outweigh anything you get, in that linear TV advertising, right? Versus the estimations. Well, I think this many people saw it, but I just know basically age and gender. I don't even know if it's the right audience. I just know a bunch of people saw it.
Yeah, Pete, if I told you 10 years ago that you can serve a commercial and know exactly if it led to a sale, you would have told me to stop talking. That it just did not seem like a possibility, even as recently as 5 years ago.
Well, and that's a great segue into our next question, right? So how does CTV pair up with other traditional as well as digital marketing strategies? And how do you see your customers using as part of an overall, structure?
Certainly. I think what maybe over the last 50 years or so, the way budget allocation worked for an advertiser is it kind of started with the steak first. You had $100 to make a nice meal. How much is the steak going to cost? Okay, now I can figure out. Now I can back into buying my vegetables and my seasonings and stuff. That's how people treated television. If I have $100 to run an ad campaign, I know television is going to be the bulk of my spend, maybe $40, $50. So I'm going to spend that money first, or put that money aside, and then I'm going to figure out all my channels. You don't have to do that anymore when it comes to CTV. With folks like And that's sort of, you can say, where's my audience? Who is my audience? And using all the data that, we sit on and you guys sit on, you can say, where is my audience in terms of different channels, different publishers? And you can do a forecast. You could say, okay, I think for this specific campaign, we're going to spend a lot of money on Spotify because that's where a lot of my advertisers are going to be. And so you let the data tell you where to spend your money. And then you can maybe send your RFPs out and plan from there.
Mm-hmm.
So CTV is going to fit in your marketing strategy in a variety of different ways. But what I recommend folks do is evolve a little bit from the linear TV gets the big piece of chicken first, and then all the other channels come afterwards. You just don't have to do that order anymore. You can now let the data, you could start with the data and work your way backwards from there.
Yeah, that's right. And I think people used to view TV as a top of the funnel awareness type initiative, right? But when you integrate this into a full digital funnel, you can see these motions participating lower in funnel and driving actual sales.
I think that's right. And there's one, and I know we're going to get to this a little bit later, but when you look at the CPMs, the cost of even a CTV impression, it looks high, and that's okay, because what you're paying for is data. You're not just paying for selling the commercial. You're also paying to keep the data. And what you can do after you keep that data, especially if you're working with a partner like Nexertive, is you can use that data to say, okay, we hit them with the CTV ad. Now let's follow up with a banner ad. Right. Now let's follow up with a Spotify audio ad. And so there's a lot more value there that wasn't there before in linear.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need a bit of a technology partner, because running those campaigns and managing all those assets, particularly doing it dynamically, and then when you factor in trying to do it around a local partner of a large brand, right? I'm selling a mattress around a particular store in Denver. That's a different structure, different content, different channels, all sorts of things than if I'm doing it in, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So that's where that scale and technology really come into play. So that, we just talked a little bit about audiences and geo targeting. What kind of possibilities, did the trade desk bring to the table that maybe weren't available before?
Yeah, I love to try to answer this question with one word, and the word is called parity.
Okay.
So if advertisers have really enjoyed the level of precisioning they've gotten from display banners, the level of targeting, geo targeting, and audience targeting that they've gotten from pre-roll video, when we rolled out our television product, we said TV has to meet the same standards. CTV has to be at parity with banners, has to be at parity with pre-roll video. So if you really love the audiences that you've curated, the in-market for mattress, the wets or the water sport enthusiast audiences, you can point those at the display banners, you can point them at pre-roll video, and you can also point them at the CTV device. So as granular as you want to get between geo targeting and audience targeting.
Great. And I got a question in from somebody in our audience.
Cool.
When you think about geo targeting, what's the advice you're giving people on mixing those different channels you mentioned, right? Are the geos different for a different channel or a different network? Are you thinking about broader audiences? Is maybe CTV a little bit more regional versus localized versus search? How do you approach that?
It's a really good question. I think you can. The way I would approach it is you can pair it up with price.
Okay.
So banner ads are going to be pretty cheap. So you can actually run a lot of tonnage with banner ads. And so maybe what you can do is, if you're a QSR, like a fast food restaurant, or you have brick and mortar stores, you can have a really tight geo fence around there and pair that with a banner ad strategy, and you can do tonnage, right? You can really, you can have an efficient campaign that way. If you're doing television, maybe more difficult to run that type of campaign and still be cost conscious. So maybe television, you want to be a little bit more broad with your geofencing and your geo targeting.
Right. I think the advantage that we try to bring to the table in partnership with the trade desk is giving that data in real time to our customers. And what we see is when we compare, again, we're looking at a return on investment. So we actually try to drive down to the profit level rather than the return on ad spend, which is somewhat superficial, right? And you can game that with metrics. We actually try to pull in as much data from our clients as possible, even down to the CRM. So we want to show them that maybe for this particular product, in this particular market, it performs better in this particular channel, which may be very different than a different market, right? So
That's right.
You have to tune at that level of precision. So that's the advantage of trying to do this across and integrating this into a full digital strategy.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's when you assume control, you also have to let go of control a little bit.
Right.
Like if you find this media mix of like 25% television, 25% this, and you feel really good about it and you kind of want to apply it to every single DMA you're in. But when you have the control of being able to choose the impressions that work best for you at the current time, you kind of have to let go of those rules that you initially thought out with and let the data steer you where your campaigns are going to perform best.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Now, when you think about these targeting, building on that, how do things change when all the third-party cookies go away? What's the trade desk seeing, and what are the strategies you guys are recommending to clients?
Certainly. Let me back up a little bit. I think we're all feeling like we're in the golden age of television.
Mm-hmm.
There's a TV show. There's two TV shows coming out every week that our friends are telling us about, and we can't necessarily keep up with that. The question that comes after understanding that from a marketer's lens is who's paying for it? Who's paying for the new Saved by the Bell reboot, or for how Fixer Upper came back online, but now it's on Discovery Plus instead of your cable box? Who's paying for it? A lot of times the publishers are asking us to pay out of pocket. That means like Netflix or Disney Plus, where we're reaching into our wallet and we're paying for content. But I don't think I have the money to support all of these new streaming services. I don't know if you do. So the way we pay for it is through advertising. The way we go into an agreement with the Peacocks and Discovery Pluses of the world and say, hey, I'm going to let you use a little bit of data and use a little bit of my attention to go monetize this content with an advertiser that I really want to see. We're not having that conversation we haven't done a good job as an internet community of publishers having that type of conversation with consumers. Where when I log on to the Washington Post, there's a very clear agreement. Because I'm giving my data and my attention, I get to receive this content for free. And that's because we've been using cookies for a long time. We've kind of been collecting data in the background, on the other side of the browser. And it wasn't sustainable 10 years ago, and it's not sustainable now. So one of the initiatives that you might be hearing about coming from the trade desk is called Unified ID 2.0. And essentially what Unified ID 2.0 is designed is for internet users like myself and yourself to be really empowered about who we share data with and why we share data with that person in order to maybe buy a pair of shoes online or buy a mattress online. Or is it because I want to read an article in the Washington Post? And so there are longer term, we're working on Unified ID 2.0, which is essentially this encrypted way to share data among consumers, publishers, advertisers, and technologies. And we feel confident that that solution will be in market prior to cookies going anywhere. Mm. So it's something that's very top of mind. But I feel very confident that we're going to have an answer before we're going to have a solution before there's even a problem.
Interesting. And how do you see that playing into the variations of connected TV channels? For example, the paid services versus the freed services. How does that play? That's a question that just came in, by the way, which I think is a great one.
Sure. I think it's not necessarily paid versus free. I think the biggest question is going to be, do you have a one-to-one relationship between your streaming services and yourself, or do you not? Mm. So for example, Peacock is free. Like a version of Peacock is free, but you have to authenticate with your email. There has to be a relationship there. And I think what you're going to find is the content owners of the world are going to be more proactive about developing that relationship than they are about just getting you to watch the content.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's accurate.
So, and I think that's good. It's bringing transparency to the exchange of goods, of my attention for free content as a consumer.
Well, that actually is an important part of the next question, which is, when you think about that relationship, that exchange of information, right? I'm giving you permission, I'm getting free content from you, I'm giving you some information back. How does that tie into attribution and ROI? I mean, how are you sharing that information back to your customers to show the value of the connected TV platform?
Certainly. So one of the things when you enter that exchange and you're saying, hey, publisher, you are allowed to monetize my time using a little bit of data, that data goes on to fuel a lot of different cool things for the advertiser. Mm-hmm. And that's including attribution. So because of the technology that we've built and NetSertive takes advantage of, if you're an advertiser, you can actually say, let's run some connected television ads where my ad is on a TV screen, and you can actually track if that ad led to an online purchase. And you can even track if it led to footfall next to your physical brick and mortar stores. Very, very awesome and advanced stuff. And to your point, that's being fueled because of that exchange of free content for the consumer. Excellent. And when you're looking at ROI, it's got to be specific to your business. It's got to be specific to your bottom line. Like your bottom line is going to be very different, even to your competitive set. You might just think about your business a little bit differently. And when you're thinking about how am I going to measure the effectiveness of my CTV campaign, try to get as close to your bottom line as possible. And if for some reason the technology hasn't caught up there, then let's go to the next best thing. But you don't have to, as an advertiser, you don't have to just say, you don't have to settle for the out-of-the-box solutions and the out-of-the-box KPIs.
This is why the integration with the Trade Desk was so important for our customers, because what we try to do is show our clients a dashboard. And we have some customers that have really put together some really, I would call, complex and robust go-to-market strategies. They have traditional storefronts as part of their business model. They have their own online storefront, which they've built and evolved, and they also sell products through Amazon. So now building a CTV campaign into all the awareness, mid-lower funnel activities they're doing, what we've been able to do is sit down with them and show them their spend across product by physical location in their e-com stores, as well as through Amazon. And you think about the multiple SKUs these organizations can support, the fact that they can measure an ROI across a particular product through a particular physical or online location. Now they're starting to pull some real levers. Mm-hmm. And they can see what we also show them is when you believe display may not return the same ROI. Well, oftentimes when you drop display, you drive awareness down, and down the road 2 months, you see search go down, right? So those impacts, and when you start to crank some of these levers, having that data in real time and that proper attribution really allows a customer to spend their money most effectively. And we've seen dramatic improvements in return on investment based on some very subtle adjustments. And sometimes it's the least sexy things you do that drive the biggest results.
Pete, what's their clients' reactions when they see the dashboard for the first time? I feel like it's probably a really new thing.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I was doing this without this. It's typically their reaction. That's good. Right? Because I just didn't have any idea. Yeah. And some, by the way, some of our customers look at that dashboard and go, I don't understand it. Please do that for me. Sure. Right? Other customers really want to get in there and move money around. And they'll ask us to do it for them, but they're very curious. And here's what happens. We have customers driving all of their offline advertising programs because of the data we're giving them in real time through attribution. They had no idea that particular content, assets, branding, logos, fonts, whatever, were impacting customer behavior. And so they're changing their traditional advertising structure and their in-store advertising structure to match up with the results they're seeing online, which is really powerful.
I think that goes to the second question that we covered of where does CTV fit? It's like, well, CTV can fit anywhere, but the data should fit everywhere.
Absolutely right.
The data should not just fuel digital strategies, but also can really inform traditional strategies.
So this next question, I'm actually going to tee it up with a viewer who actually sent this in. This is from Brian. He said, when comparing CPM rates and possibility of a click, how would you work through balancing an OTT budget for large screens versus small screens? And that kind of gets into how you're buying and bidding and targeting.
Yeah, that's a really good question. What's really nice is, as an advertiser, you can develop your own point of view here. I've seen a lot of advertisers say, I'm agnostic. Some advertisers go as far as they say, video is video. Mm-hmm. I don't care if it's a clip. I don't care if it's a movie length long. I don't even care if it's live sports, college football. A video impression is a video impression if it's if it's in front of the right audience. So that gives you a lot of room to play, and you can say, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to get some really efficient CPMs to drive performance. Mm-hmm. You have other advertisers who say, listen, part of my success as an advertiser and as a brand is I've built a really awesome brand equity with my customer base. Mm-hmm. I value being on the big screen. I value being among live sports because I feel confident that that's part of my success. Mm-hmm. So maybe you say, you know what, like, we're not going to target mobile ads. We're not going to target desktop ads. We're going to be a CTV shop for this specific strategy, for this awareness strategy. So the point of view is really in the hands of the advertiser. If the advertiser hasn't generated their point of view yet, maybe you cast a wide net and then you let the data steer you a little bit. And then you bring your emotions and you bring your feelings into it. At the end of the day, these folks are business owners, and they have really good gut intuition on what works for them. So I like to say it starts by developing your own point of view as an advertiser.
I'll actually share kind of a real-time experience we had with one of our current customers. It's a B2B play. It's a B2B customer.
Okay.
And they've launched their first B2C product line. And they're in a market that's fairly competitive. They're late to market, but they're doing all the right things to build out that experience. In our last discovery meeting and kind of planning session with them, they identified that they want to go after two different types of audiences. One is a very consumer-based transaction. I buy an item. The other one is I'm going to go buy that same item, but more of them for my company.
Right.
And what they've discovered is their mobile experience, to Brian's question, isn't converting as high as it should be based on what we know as to be industry standards. Mm. And particularly as they lean more into that person thinking as a business owner, that customer as a business owner, I've got to buy more of these for my company. They're going to make that buying decision, not on their phone. They're going to make it in front of a larger screen.
Right.
So that now, to Brian's point, dictates where you drive your strategy. Because if you sell a product or a service that a customer can engage content with on a mobile phone and then instantly make a purchase decision, right? They might jump off that screen, do a Google search or whatever it is, go into a different platform to discover more what's there. And by the way, one of the next questions coming up is directly tied to this. Then you have to double down on that mobile experience and make sure you're reaching those buyers. If someone's doing more research through a broader screen and it's a longer sales cycle, then you got to think about where you want to drive most of your platform and your content. That's a great question.
Right.
What are the KPIs that you're looking at for programmatic versus site direct CTV buying? Is there anything there that you could tie into?
When you, programmatic versus site direct, you said?
Correct. Yep.
When it comes to CTV, well, usually if you're going site direct, you're not going to even have the possibility of doing online attribution. Unless you're cutting a pretty big check, it would take a little bit of work from the site or from the publisher in order to tie all that together.
Okay.
What's really nice about programmatic is that it's a default option, or not a default option, but a out of the box option whenever you're ready for it. Simply add a pixel to your site and you can see how your CTV television ads are resulting in online actions for your business.
Okay.
So it's pretty different. It's vastly different, the programmatic capabilities versus the direct capabilities. And again, if you're going down the line to trying to see what kind of action-based KPIs are available, even a site visit can be very beneficial. I saw a question that came in about asking about retargeting. Not only are you, if you're focusing your KPI on how many site visits you're driving, is it good to measure with, but you can also use that same data to retarget folks, and either serve them back into a TV environment or a cross-screen environment. So again, a little bit of a theme here. It's about getting down as close as you can to your bottom line, what actually drives your business forward, and getting as close to that type of KPI, that type of metric as possible.
So Tomas, one of the questions just came in from Haley is, and you mentioned this just briefly, is talk about the ability to retarget consumers using CTV.
Yeah. Hey, again, it's a whole new world of possibilities. Mm-hmm. Advertisers have first party data, and it's a little bit of a nebulous thing to say, but if you keep, like, if the people that visit your website, that's data that you own. The people who have signed up for a newsletter with you, that's data that you own, and you could put that data to work to drive your CTV campaigns to reach these folks in a very privacy safe and responsible way. And a lot of times, because these people have said, they've already indicated that they're interested in your business, these can be top performing strategies.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned that example earlier. Just take it for a car example. I'm on my phone and browsing around looking for a new Jeep, Jeep Wrangler, and I've conveyed some information into that brand and that local dealer, and then we can use that information to retarget through CTV. We can dynamically bring up the Jeep that they were searching for based on inventory at a local dealer. That is extremely powerful. So I actually serve up an ad next time they're watching TV that says, oh, by the way, here's that red Jeep Wrangler. We've got 3 in stock, and here's the price, and here's the local phone number to go buy one. That has never been possible before.
That's right.
And I know in our CTV discussions, particularly in these larger purchases, that's what's getting our customers excited. Literally, we deal, by the way, auto's a pretty savvy market, right? They know digital marketing. When we talk about that, they literally put their pens down and go, what did you just say?
Yeah.
That changes the game on how people think about digital advertising, because it really truly is an integrated digital funnel.
That's right. I agree.
When you think about performance and you think about, these targeting situations, somebody actually wrote in and said, I'm watching a lot of TV through apps, but I see the same ads all the time.
Yeah.
What is that? Why is that happening?
It's the antithesis of programmatic. It's direct sales. It's a publisher agreeing to fill a large order for an advertiser and kind of having to run as many ads as possible to finish it up. I don't think you want to be that advertiser. I don't think you want to be the advertiser where the publisher's just got to check the box. And that's what programmatic does. That's what Netsertive does. That's what the Trade Desk does. When you buy programmatically, instead of, I want to give this analogy. When you go to grocery shopping, you don't hand the stock boy $100 and just see what groceries come back out. Right? You
Very
walk
true.
in and you say, I want this produce, I want this meat. Like, you are the judge, you are the buyer. That's the difference between direct and programmatic.
Okay.
You strike a deal with direct, but you get to choose what your produce looks like or what your ad impressions look like, as opposed to the publisher. And so, yeah, when I see that happening, when I see the repeat commercials, I'm like, man, should have gone programmatic.
Absolutely. Tomas, another question came in from Alex, and this is a nuanced question, right? He wants to know how effective geofencing is with CTV versus geotargeting.
Geofencing versus geotargeting. Geofencing's great when it comes to when you can actually build circles around physical brick and mortar locations. It's not, the strategies aren't too dissimilar, to be honest, because geotargeting can present, you can go down to the zip code level, which essentially you can get almost as precise as doing a fence.
Okay.
So when you think of geotargeting, don't just think DMA level, or don't just think metro level. You can get down pretty in pretty specific zips, but use multiple strategies.
Okay.
Like, you can build a strategy that's geofencing specific, and then also target the DMA with more of a prospecting strategy as well.
Okay. I think you mentioned that if you're using an omni-channel approach, you can have a different geofencing or targeting strategy for CTV versus what you might be doing for search or display or video as well. And then those tie off together, right? Depending on the audiences you're going after the markets.
That's correct. And I think when you start using multiple strategies, you'll start figuring out what's going to be most cost efficient based on what results you're getting.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So thinking about CTV, what kind of creative or personalization is capable with CTV? You know, I guess thinking about the assets and the creative, walk us through what the Trade Desk does there.
You know, you're the expert in this realm, not necessarily me, but I can tell you what the foundation is. The foundation is what we've been talking about, which is the data. When you're purchasing, or when someone visits your site and you're all set up programmatically, you own that data, and you can give that person who indicated interest a better commercial experience by personalizing it. Like, you're making their television viewing experience a little bit better. And it just so happens to be really lucrative for you as a business owner as well. But we have the infrastructure of data that makes that possible, but it's really partners like you, Pete, who kind of take it to the next level. So,
and Haley had a follow-up question. How do we optimize this content? What do we do?
Yeah.
And I think I will steal the stage a little bit to tee up what you just described. So one of the things we focused on is that ability to take an asset, whether it's a video or an image or whatever that brand is, and leverage it across all the locations that brand might be selling into in a specific market. So for example, if we're looking at, updating a kitchen and I see an advertisement for a kitchen remodeler, I don't want to see the 800 number in a generic picture. Right. I want to see a kitchen that would be designed where I kind of live, what it looks like. I want to see the local partner's number that I can call, so I feel like I'm actually seeing something in my market. That takes technology, right? We do that. So we'll take brand assets that have been approved at a brand level, and we can localize them. There's a lot of different versions of localizing them. One can mean we can just put overlays on to provide specific cities served or markets served, or examples, or pull images dynamically that are relevant in that market. The other thing we can do is we can, again, back to that car example, we can pull up the exact vehicle model and color that they were looking at based on an inventory in a local dealer. That's really powerful as well. So same assets, but again, then we can dynamically pull them. So that really optimizes your content in a much more efficient manner. To do that in real time also allows you to A/B test a lot of different things.
I want to give you guys a little credit here too. As we've launched this channel 3 years ago, and I've seen a lot of the different iterations, I knew this was possible. I just didn't see anyone in market actually doing it. And it wasn't until, you and I partnered together on our previous webinar that I was like, wait, you're doing what?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm delighted to see it. It's really like taking the possibilities of news channels and maxing them out.
So I got two more questions that came in. One's from Chris. Chris first asked, should a brand run different messaging on CTV versus linear or other video? I mean, what do you guys see as best practice there?
Well, I think we were talking a little bit about this prior, where CTV gives you the optionality and the data to inform the rest of your marketing effort. You have a series of 4 or 5 different creatives. Maybe you're using different car models in them, or you're just using different taglines. You can throw that out into your marketplace in a small test buy with connected television campaign, or even go smaller and go with a mobile video campaign. See if there's any commercials that are really popping off in terms of driving site visits or driving some type of action. And then maybe that's the one you lead with when you go into linear and market. So I would say that you don't necessarily have to run different types of creatives, but you can learn a lot from running programmatically first.
It actually dovetails nicely into the next question we got from Bobby, which are, what's the best way to utilize sequential messaging in CTV from a messaging perspective? And I think, and I'll tee this up for you, Tomas, but, there's a lot of things to consider, right? Sequential marketing campaigns, they tell a story, right? And that's what we stress this with our customers all the time. You need to show up in that digital funnel at the right place at the right time based on where their intent is in that story, right? They're learning something which gives you permission to serve up another message at the next step in the process. And again, it's back to some marketing 101. The first thing is why? Why would this person even be searching for this particular product or service, right? You have to make sure you answer that and show them that what they're searching for, you have, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you have to describe how you're better or how you do it differently. You need permission for that next step or that next part of the story. And that means perhaps serving it up in a different channel or across a different platform at the right time. And that can mean, for example, if I search for a keyword and I get a response in text, I see, all right, they have it. But the next place I might find it is a video link that tells me a deeper story. Then I might see an ad that is triggered based on those activities. So what are your thoughts about the sequential messaging aspect and how that can even tie into the retargeting things we talked about?
Sequential messaging is so cool. Mm-hmm. It really gives you insight on how customers find you and how they build a relationship with you all the way until the point of purchase and maybe even after. My recommendation is allow yourself to have a control and an exposed. So if you have an idea of how your consumer set really really go through the ad experience in order to interact with your brand and purchase maybe your products, go ahead and test that. If it's audio first, then CTV, then some display banners, regardless of whether it's mobile, desktop, go ahead and lock that in. But also build a strategy which is a little bit more fluid and then allow the data to confirm or sharpen your initial hypothesis. Mm-hmm. A lot of times the data might reveal something to you that people are doing research on mobile way before they're even opening up their laptop. Yep. You're just not going to know until you allow yourself a little bit of fluidity to find out.
Yeah, in fact, I think I mentioned this customer earlier. We showed them their mobile conversion rates were probably a third of where they need to be.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they didn't, by the way, they said we've never even considered that before. So that level of data across their digital funnel, and then we actually showed them how that mobile conversion rate, where the cart abandonments happen. But once they got people in there, there were actually some things they learned that exact process you just described, is understanding, back to one of the earlier questions, where should I be focusing? So, I think it's important that making sure you meet that consumer in that digital journey at the right place, and understanding some people start with their phone, do the deeper purchase research, and then the actual transaction in front of a bigger screen, and vice versa. So those are really important things to make sure you look at your data with your digital partner to make sure you understand that information.
I agree.
So that is it for our canned questions. We've had a couple other questions come in. I can certainly take a couple last questions if anybody has those. Otherwise, we are very grateful for Tomas's time and enlightenment on the CTV world. And hopefully all of you can follow up with us. You can go to netcertive.com/CTV. We have a microsite there that will actually walk you through some of the opportunities as well. So really grateful for everyone's time, and look forward to touching base with you down the road. Tomas, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm glad we get to do this one again. It was great.
I think there'll be a part 3. There's more to discover.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thanks, everyone.